some of the roles in there. How are we contributing to addressing these issues as fishing communities and as members of the public and CSOs? Will be having engagement on that. There's a panel before me today who will be having a program geared towards finding solutions for that. So the Women in Fisheries Against Gender Violence Wives project has been brought up, and the project officer for Henin Puano, who's in the middle of my panel today, Jemima Emezang, has joined us at the table for Henin Puano. Jemima, good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
And next to Jemima on the far side, the Western Regional Director, Department of Gender, Madame Maribel Akoko Okai, has also joined us. Maribel, good morning.
Good morning.
And the only gentleman on the panel is also Michael Techi. He is the Wives Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. So I've told you the Wives Project, what it means, Women in Fisheries Against Gender Violence. So that's the Wives Project. He's the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So we are talking about Henin Puano. So it tells us that it's in the Fanti side of town. So perhaps I'll start with you, Maribel. How bad is it when we talk about gender-based violence? We know that in the homes it's pretty bad, but in fishing communities, what makes that different from other forms of gender-based violence?
I think the challenge is with the depletion of fishes. So when there is pressure for financial benefit for the family, the monies are not coming, then violence is shown as a way of showing who you are as a man. And so because they are not getting the financial income as they used to get, they are using violence as a way of showing who they are. Their manner, how money they are, and so it becomes a challenge in the fishing communities because they are not getting the income. Then the only way I can show I'm a man is to show how manly I am. That's to show you how I can beat you, how I can abuse you, to know that I'm the man of the house, regardless of the income I'm getting or not.
So, Jemima, you, for Henin Puano, do you have engagements with these women? What are we looking at? Is it more against the men or more against the women? What are some of the stories you can share with us from your
Okay, so the prevalence is more against women. I mean, women suffer from gender-based violence more than men, in the sense that, like Maribel mentioned, because of the low catches, when the income is low, the women, get agitated. The women get agitated. They ask from the men, where is my, housekeeping money or something, and then violence is resorted. And sometimes also the women also perpetrate violence against the men verbally. There is these insults and all that, and it triggers the anger of the men, and then they unleash their anger on the women. Also, there is polygamous relationships in the fishing communities. So, the women mostly finance a lot of the fishing expeditions for these fisher folk, for the men. And the agreement is that when they get the catch, they are supposed to bring the fish back to the women for the women to sell it. But because of their polygamous relationships, sometimes the fish do not get to the women, their wives, who are the financiers. They get to other women. So they play this game. Sometimes they take money from different women, or sometimes they even go and land at a different landing site altogether. So the fish does not end up coming back to the woman. And that's what generates the violence, the arguments, and all that.
Okay. So, Michael, what do organizations like yours do in these instances? So what's the goal here?
Oh, okay. So for the project, being the Wives Project, it's being sponsored by the European Union. The European Union is sponsoring this Wife project. And what we are doing concerning this is to make sure that we make it socially unacceptable in our communities. So for this project, we are making sure that we will come out with digital platforms such as the social media, web mapping systems, where we will be making sure that we'll map it and use it as a communication tool to advocates through the duty bearers at the ministries and those places that will know the prevalence rate at a glance. We also make men as allies We want to make sure that they will realize that the thing is really affecting women more. So we'll now train young men, husbands, and association leaders to make sure that they understand the issues and don't abuse women or support those who are abusing women. We also make sure that we will create social service providers to make sure that victims are being supported effectively. So this is what the Wives Project is really doing to make sure that this is. Yeah.
So Maribel, that's from the conceptualizing level. So
Yes.
it's a policy level. When it comes to implementation, the staff is talking about training men to be more appreciative of some of these issues, making digital platforms available to provide support systems, and perhaps I'll ask what support systems are available. Yeah. But is the implementation going to be possible? Because you're with the Western Regional Department of Gender. Will that be easy to do?
Yes, it will be, because it's a collaboration between several stakeholders. So Yempuano is spearheading the project, but then there are other institutions supporting them to implement the project, and so it's possible.
Very possible is the answer to that question. What support systems are available? Because are people leaving, more willing to leave with education that we should not subject ourselves to violent relationships and violent situations? And if they do decide to leave, where do they go? Are those support services available?
Okay, so the support systems, or are you referring to are you asking Maribel?
No, you.
Me. Okay, so the support systems are not very sufficient or adequate. So, and that is why the Wives Project comes in. So the Wives Project intends to prepare a place where it can be used as a shelter for people who are, badly affected by this gender-based violence, to seek redress, to go through some livelihood empowerment and get some skills to be able to fend for themselves. The project is also strengthening the law enforcement by, giving some capacity building to the institutions along the prosecutorial chain, so that people can report gender-based violence and also get redress for their problems.
Right. I'm glad that you're mentioning that there are ways for people to report, because key among some of the issues is the fact that people sometimes require medical intervention, which they do not have monies to afford, but they have to pay at the hospitals because they need the care. What are some of the conversations going on around ensuring that persons who suffer these violent situations and require medical attention get medical attention without the focus not being put on whether they can afford the care? Gender.
So, for the Department of Gender in the Western region, we have engaged with some medical doctors or medical doctors or heads of institutions, medical institutions in the region, to see how we can liaise. They can help us either not take any cost, any money at all, or also help us get. We have some NGOs also helping us when it comes to that vein. That when they have issues and they report to us, we quickly liaise with them to go to support them to assess the medical support they need to gain that.
Michael, so what specific activities are we talking about here?
Okay, I mentioned the strategy. So what we are doing is that for this project, this Wives Project, Hempuano is the lead, and Sewefia is an implementing partner. And we have this activity that Jemima talked about, creating the services in our center. We have a center in Elmina, ISA Elmina, where we will furnish the place and make the place a center where we train this women and men who go through this violence. So this is one specific activity that I will be doing to support the services that we will need. Another activity that we are doing is also to train fisher folk leaders in the communities as trainer of trainers. So they will now, in turn, we give them the platform to educate their members. Sometimes if we go us as visitors and all that. So but we want their own people to train them on gender-based violence. We also organize series of sensitization programs to make sure that they get the support. This is a specific. This project is mainly an advocacy action. So we are doing a lot of. We have a baseline surveys. We are doing a lot of surveys that will get the information that we can now liaise with and dialogue with the duty bearers to make sure that gender-based violence becomes unacceptable in the
right.
society.
So we'll be wrapping up. I'll give each of you the opportunity to make a point. So how can people reach you? How can people be a part of this project, this program that you're having? And then we'll wrap up on that. So I'll start with you, Michael, and work my way back since you were the last to contribute.
Okay, so the project is, as I said, as Hempuano in Takrady, Sowefia in Elmina. It's being sponsored by the European Union as a Women in Fisheries Against Violence. It's an open project, and all partners who are into the gender-based violence space they're always welcome to join. We are this week, this 16 days from today to 10th, activism. We are fully part of it, and we are celebrating every day. So I wish the whole Ghana, especially the men, to go orange to make sure that women are protected.
Because that's the color for gender activism.
That's the color.
The orange color.
So that is what I can say.
Jemima,
thank you very much.
you're last.
Yes, I was just going to say what Michael has said, that from today 25th
November,
to 10th December is 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And so we are just, collaborating with other partners. We look forward to be collaborating with the ministries and with other CSOs who are in the space. And so much awareness going on. We'll be on social media, and so people can just help to spread the message.
What are the handles?
We're on Facebook as Genderbased,
okay,
and Sowefia also. We are on YouTube as Genderbased, and then on Twitter as well.
Right.
So they can help share our posts. To be making proclamations and all that, and they can just help by spreading the message. Now it's easy to do that.
Power of social media.
Yes.
Madam Director, so it's a bigger conversation that goes beyond the 16 days of activism. But where does it start, or what should everybody do now, especially in these 16 days, to raise more awareness and more education on the need to protect all genders?
The first I would say is that don't abuse the next person you meet, because you don't know who will also abuse later. And so let's be of not be abusing each other, and then make sure that we report to the appropriate quarters to help you address the challenge you may be facing. So there are help around to help you when you have a challenge when it comes to gender-based violence. Seek help.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Maribel Akoko Okai is the Western Regional Director at the Department of Gender, and she's been doing this with Jemima Emezang, who is a project officer at Henempuano. They've been here with Michael Techi, the Wives Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. They have a program which is the Women in Fisheries Against Gender Violence Wives Project, and it's going to be happening across these 16 days of activism and beyond. They are calling on all persons who have been victims of gender-based violence to come on board, step forward and get help. They will offer training. There are conversations around finding a shelter for persons who may need a temporary place to stay. There are conversations around training for fisher folks to help them even manage the situations at the beach sites and the fishing communities where these crimes are perpetrated. And it's the Wives Project and the team that have been here making this conversation possible. More to expect on the lighter side of the breakfast